rooting out the deep state, rooting against these establishment politicians, and trying to root out that corruption has been one of the main focuses of the MAGA agenda and one of the main focuses of the Trump administration. And for some reason, Tom Tillis, James Lankford, John Cornyn, all of these establishment Republicans who want to cozy up to Trump and the MAGA movement whenever they want to run for the re-election campaigns and primaries, but yet oppose somebody like Ed Martin, who has been a beacon of the MAGA agenda, has been a beacon of the America First movement. For some reason, we want to oppose those. We want to oppose Ed Martin. We want to oppose tariffs. We want to oppose, the lowering of pharmaceutical drugs and their impact on the country. But yet we want to cozy up to Donald Trump and the MAGA base when they want to run for re-election. And this is exactly why MAGA was started. It was not just a war on the establishment left. It was not just a war on the deep state. It was a war amongst the establishment Republicans that control Washington, D.C. And that was going to start with putting Ed Martin there as the U.S. attorney in that position. But yet we have to settle and place Ed Martin somewhere else in the DOJ, which I'm sure he will do an amazing job at because of opposition from neocon establishment Republicans like Tom Tillis, like James Lankford, and like John Cornyn.
And so this is here. Let me give you the pushback on this that I get from the media all the time. They say, and what's your response? Where they say, well, what if a more conservative candidate wins the primary, but then is it safe to say that they can win the general as well? Or would that create more of a vulnerability for Republicans in the general election? What would you say to that?
Look at the states where these establishment Republicans are at. Look, I understand the argument for Susan Collins. She's one of the only people that I even somewhat can see that argument for. But we're talking about North Carolina, a state Donald Trump has won all 3 times. We're talking about Oklahoma, the most dominant Trump state in the 2016, 2020, and 2024 elections, and a state like Texas that everybody's saying, well, Texas is going to go purple, and it never comes close. These 3 dominantly red states are where these RINOs thrive. In states like North Carolina, it can at least be viewed as somewhat of a swing state, even though Trump's won it overwhelmingly all 3 times he's ran. But Oklahoma and Texas, there are absolutely no arguments. And we're not talking about somebody who's going to cost Trump a state when he's went literally 9-0 in all these states where we have these RINO establishment Republicans deriving from. Look, I don't understand if this was, like I said, a state like Maine that is a solid blue state. There's a Republican senator there. I still think we should hold Susan Collins accountable, and maybe we should run somebody against her in order to at least hold her accountable to the MAGA base that still votes in those Republican primaries. But in states like Oklahoma, North Carolina, and Texas, where the MAGA base literally decides elections, they decide primaries, they decide to give the states all to Donald Trump, especially in North Carolina, especially in Texas, we have to ensure that we are getting people there who are right and America first.
And Kenny, President Trump has been talking about these nation builders and these neocons. He just said something in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Guys, let's play that clip right now.
In the end, the so-called nation builders wrecked far more nations than they built, and the interventionists were intervening in complex societies that they did not even understand themselves. Peace, prosperity, and progress ultimately came not from a radical rejection of your heritage, but rather from embracing your national traditions and embracing that same heritage that you love.
Kenny, we just got a minute till the break, but I mean, that really sums it up, isn't it? These senators are still operating in that old model, aren't they?
They are, and they embolden issues like amnesty when it comes to illegal immigration. They don't want to embrace mass deportation. They want to embrace forever wars. They continue to nation build and benefit off the military-industrial complex. These are the same Republicans that have voted for war for 20 years, the same Republicans who have voted for amnesty for 20 years, and the same Republicans who embolden the establishment rather than the MAGA base. And that's exactly what we want to reject as the America First movement.